So, a major policy announcement today from the government, but despite that, questions still remain about the Prime Minister himself. Yesterday, a meeting of the Liberal caucus exposing the depth of discontent with Justin Trudeau's leadership, and reportedly, dissident Liberals are giving him till Monday to step down or face unspecified consequences.
In the Liberal Party, we talk amongst ourselves. We share our perspectives. We're open about our united desire to make sure that Pierre Poilievre doesn't get the chance to cut the programs and services that Canadians are relying on in this time of affordability crises. So yeah, we're going to continue to have great conversations about what is the best way to take on Pierre Poilievre in the next election, but that'll happen with me as leader going into the next election.
So that was the Prime Minister this morning, which inspired these responses from some of the Liberal MPs who think it is time for Justin Trudeau to step down.
See, did the Prime Minister take enough time to decide on whether he should stay or go? Do you feel he took enough time to reflect?
No, I don't. But I don't think that he felt that he needed to reflect at all. I think his mind was made up.
What do you make of that?
Disappointing.
You know, I'm not surprised that the Prime Minister said that. I mean, if he would have said anything else, he probably would be a lame duck Prime Minister.
Disappointed. I expected him to reflect, or we expected him to reflect for the weekend. I mean, it was kind of given a date of October 28th to come back to the group with an answer, and that's a pretty quick response. I think he needs more reflection.
Do you think he can carry on, though? Do you think a leader can go into an election with 24 members of his caucus saying he's not the right guy for the job?
Look, I think ultimately it's the Prime Minister's decision, and so that's a decision for him and a question for him, I think.
Well, to talk about this, we're now joined by our political strategist. George Soule is a former NDP strategist, now principal at Syntax Strategic. Cole Hogan also joins us today, conservative digital strategist and principal at GT & Company. And in Toronto, Sharan Kaur, a former Liberal strategist, now partner at Sovereign Advisory. Hello to the three of you.
Hello.
So there we have it. The Prime Minister saying this morning he will, once again, reiterating he's going to lead the Liberal Party in the next election. But, you know, given that the knives are already out for him, can he really stay cool?
Yeah, I don't think when your lack of popularity is so widespread that it contains your own caucus, that's a problem. I don't think that over time we're going to see Trudeau really switch gears here, and I think that the party is just in a totally different gear altogether. I think that Liberals kind of did this to themselves. Trudeau was elected to the party with 80% of the vote. He was also, the Liberal caucus members voted to not give themselves the ability to trigger leadership reviews under the Reform Act. So they don't have that. They have no mechanism under which to hold them to account, and they gave the famous guy complete power of the party without any political recourse if things went sideways. Now they have, and this is their own fault, and they have to dance with the one that brought them.
Okay, what do you say, George?
Well, I think even beyond what's going on in the caucus, the party itself. I mean, in 2015, I think a quick glance would say that Justin Trudeau saved the Liberal Party. But really what he did is he picked up the empty shell and turned it into the Justin Trudeau Party. So even beyond no rules within the caucus, no one really knows what the rules are for the party. They don't have real membership anymore, so it's a fan club by design. So the structures are missing for how to replace him. And besides that, how do you replace Justin Trudeau in what is essentially the Justin Trudeau party? So I think those are the challenges these caucus members are really facing. And the biggest problem for them, I think, right now, and the biggest saving grace for Justin Trudeau, is that nobody has a plan, right? So if you're going to try to overthrow the leader, great, but what's next? And they haven't presented that at all. And that's I think, what's letting him hold on.
Mm-hmm. Sharon, what do you think? I mean, the knives are out. Can Justin Trudeau stay at the helm of the Liberal Party?
So I think he will of the Liberal Party, but I think the issue we're seeing right now is that it's basically taking away from all their key messaging, and we saw that come out yesterday. They want to focus outwards versus inwards, and what's happened now is we've given the opposition and we've given everyone else a bit of a talking point about the fact that Justin Trudeau and his party can't even get along. So I personally think he's going to stick through it, but my colleagues here are correct in the sense that if we look back in 2015 when we ran our election campaign, we were polling in third place and we won the election based on Justin Trudeau in its brain, and that has its pros and its cons. And now we're at a place where what is the Liberal Party? I think there's a bit of an existential crisis across Canada around liberalism, and that's what we're seeing here. And we're also seeing caucus members who are probably hearing more on the ground than people in the Prime Minister's office are, and they're scared. So I think this is going to get messy, but I don't think he's going to step down.
Okay, you don't think he's going to step down, which leads us to the question: what happens to the Liberal MPs who've stepped forward to express their dissatisfaction with Justin Trudeau? We did hear one theory from Pierre Poilievre today. We're going to play that for you right now. Take a listen to the Conservative leader.
I have had conversations with numerous Liberal MPs. Some of them say that they're worried that the carbon tax will cost them their seats, and that they want to vote against Trudeau's radical plan to quadruple the tax to 61 cents a litre. And some of them might even be willing to vote non-confidence in Justin Trudeau if that issue comes up again.
Possibly voting against their own government, their own leader and party. What do you think of that possibility, Cole?
Yeah, I think, unless they vote non-confidence in Trudeau, I think they're pretty much safe. And some of them, they may see the writing on the wall and say, well, I'm going to lose anyway, so I might as well trigger an election. But what does that do for them? And I think, if he doesn't want to leave, no one can make him, and these caucus dissidents can't do that. When Paul Martin was strategizing on, or putting forward his strategy on how to take over Chrétien's PMO, he had large parts of the Liberal institution behind him, and the modern Liberal caucus dissidents, I don't see them having the same level of anti-leader support. And what's even more, I don't think Justin Trudeau has any particular affinity for the Liberal Party as an institution as it exists. I think this is sort of a family heirloom that he inherited, turned into a vehicle for his popularity. So I don't really think he has any concern for what state it's in after the next election.
Okay, George?
Well, even if he did, I don't know what to do next, right? I mean, who wants, one, how do you replace Justin Trudeau in the Justin Trudeau party, as I said earlier, but also who wants the job of leading the party into almost certain disaster in the next election? And I think because of this kind of loggerheads that we're at, I think one of the things that might happen is Liberal MPs will just start stepping down. So rather than lose, they'll say, I'm not going to run again. And if that starts happening, we've already seen it with some cabinet ministers. We've seen it obviously with the campaign manager. If Trudeau starts losing a ton of his incumbent MPs, it's just going to make things worse and worse for him, and who knows how you rebuild the Liberal Party from there. I mean, obviously there are some people waiting in the wings that want to run later, but I don't see why Melanie Joly or any of the others who are Minister Champagne would want to lead a party in the current state it's in. So they're kind of stuck in this place of where to go next, and I think it's a problem they've made for themselves. And I think one of the bigger problems is the longer this lasts, it becomes a problem on the world stage too. You hear the Liberals with all their talking points, and kudos to them for all staying on talking points and for day one after all this other stuff. But how does Justin Trudeau look strong on the world stage in negotiations with foreign leaders when everybody's reading in the paper that his own party's against them? So I think it's going to become a real problem that I don't really know the easy way out of.
Well, which we've already seen from the Indian Prime Minister Modi in this whole kerfuffle between New Delhi and Ottawa, pointing out that Justin Trudeau is fighting an internal battle. Sharan, where does this leave the MPs that are not happy with Justin Trudeau?
So I think even if I look back to my time in this government between 2015 and 2020, it's not new to have MPs who disagree with you. We had many scenarios where we had caucus members who didn't like certain measures we were putting forward, and we welcome that feedback. I think the issue we're having now is you have these caucus members that we saw that when they were walking into Parliament on their ends, they weren't kind of mincing their words in terms of how they felt. They just were disappointed or whatever the case may be. So I think they will continue to run because they are probably confident or scared, either or, that they could win their local seat. But I think where this leaves all of us, and I think this should be for all parties that are in government, is your caucus management strategy is probably one of the most important things, because it's great to be in the ivory towers in the center, kind of calling the shots. But this is a clear result of, I would say, a really bad and lack of caucus management strategy. Because if you were familiar with what was going on with each of your caucus members, and if they were upset, I'm sure a one-on-one sit down with the PM could help them solve that. So I think we're going to continue to see some of these folks vocalize their opinions. They'll still run. They'll run under the banner. They probably won't use the Prime Minister's face on any advertising in their riding if they're that worried. But I think it's going to be status quo. I don't think anything major happened as of yesterday that's going to change the I would say, the tone of anything.
Listen, Sharon, I'm going to pick up on a point that you just said, but I'll get to you last. I'll give you the last word on this, but very quickly then, is this over? Is the deadline is Monday, but if the Prime Minister says he's going to stay after hearing them, does the dissent end, or does this constantly become a background noise of the Liberal Party?
Yeah, I think the answer, if I was the Prime Minister, I'd be like, or else what? What are they gonna do? What mechanism do they have to actually hold the Prime Minister to account? And again, because they voted against the measures in the Reform Act to trigger a leadership review if 20% of the caucus voted for one, because they rejected that, which they did multiple times, they have no recourse to which to hold them to account or trigger a leadership review. So they've got no mechanism by which to try to hold them accountable, and the Prime Minister will be there as long as he wants to be.
Okay, George.
Yeah, it's definitely not over. And again, you've got a bunch of MPs who won based on a Justin Trudeau wave, and these MPs are now under the delusion that they won because of how great they are. And this evidence, we've already seen this government struggle with how to kind of govern lately. And again, everything's getting more and more into the center. And so they're unable to kind of stay on top of the governing in general. Now they're focused on staving Justin Trudeau, so they're not focused on Canadians anymore. And you've got a caucus of people who don't really know how to organize, trying to organize a coup. So I think it's just going to look messy for a lot longer until, again, I think the ending is a difficult one to figure out what it looks like. And I think what would be better for Justin Trudeau is to, instead of saying he's going to stick around, is trying to figure out what his exit looks like. And if you care about the Liberal Party, how that does as minimal damage as possible.
Yeah, Sharon, what do you think?
Listen, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer in what he can and cannot do, because anything unpredictable can happen. But I do think that from now until whenever an election can be held, there needs to be some sort of reconciliation with some of these caucus members. And listen, they can keep going out and talking to press, and who knows, maybe some of them will cross the floor. There's a variety of different scenarios that can happen. And for all we know, Pierre Poilievre could be kind of stretching the truth in terms of how many caucus members from the Liberals have talked to him. There's a variety of different things that can happen. But I would say if I were in the Prime Minister's office, I would try to find a mea culpa here in saying, listen, I hear you. I think we messed up in some ways and your concerns are valid. How do I bring you onto the team? How do we change the tone here? And again, bring the message back into fighting your opponent versus yourself. So I think this is a bit of a mess that is created by our own team again. But also let's remember this type of stuff happens when you've been in power for 9+ years. So it's not pretty. And I do think that if some of these caucus members feel really strongly about it, run as an independent or do whatever you need to do. But I think if we've heard in the reports, half of them wouldn't even write their names on this letter. It was a bit cloak and dagger, and I would say not the best organized coup. But that being said, people do what they got to do.
Okay, well, we continue to watch. Sharon, George, Cole, thank you for this.
Thank you.